one. Hello, my name is Kyle Baker,
And my name is Ola Olukoga.
and we're doing our career presentation on becoming a pharmacist while taking the grad school path.
The first slide is understanding the career. A pharmacist is someone who prepares and distributes medication. Among their job is to also inform health practitioners about whether or not a medication is a good choice for a patient. And it's also their job to decide doses of prescribed medications. And lastly, they also need to inform patients about proper use of the drug and any side effects it may have. The qualifications and requirements for this job include a Doctor of Pharmacy degree, also known as a PharmD, and they must also pass the State Board of Pharmacy licensure exam, in which you can get 4 different licenses, all of which will qualify you to be a pharmacist. Educational training includes a high school diploma, but you do not require a graduate degree for some pharmacy institutions. However, with a bachelor's or associate's degree, they only need a 4-year professional study at the pharmacy institution. Without one, you will need to do 2 years of undergraduate coursework at the pharmaceutical institution, followed by a 4-year professional study. Knowledge and skills that would be useful in this job field is listening and critical thinking, specifically because you need to be able to be good at listening to understand what a patient needs and critical thinking to have them use the right medicine. You need to be good at customer and personal service, especially in the CVS field, because you need to be able to work with customers in order to get them what they need. You also need to have skills in chemistry, mathematics, and biology in order to understand the composition of the drugs and how it may interact with any other medications the patient may be using. And you lastly need to be good at using technology, especially in a hospital setting, because a lot of the patient work is done virtually. And lastly, professional associations. Some noteworthy associations close by are the Minnesota Pharmacy Association and the Minnesota Society of Health Systems Pharmacists.
So, like with any job, there's pros and cons, and pharmacy is no different. Some of the pros of working in pharmacy is the salary. The average salary of somebody working in Minnesota as a pharmacist is right around $135,000, which compared to the $57,000 average salary of somebody living in Minnesota is 2.5 times more. In addition to this, a typical work schedule is also positive. Pharmacists typically work something called 7 on and 7 offs, which, as the name would suggest, working 7 days in a row and then receiving 7 days off. On the days they're working, pharmacists usually work between 8 to 12 hours, depending on their location. And while this may seem like a long day, it is. However, the benefit of having 7 days off makes up for it. Most pharmacists love this because they can have a great work and life balance and have time to spend with their families and other hobbies. Another positive is the full-time feasibility. As was previously stated, pharmacists get paid well, they always have consistent hours, great benefits. The job market, at least for now, is very solid, and finding a full-time pharmacy job is not something you really have to worry about. Finally, the last pro is small business management. It really is the pharmacist's choice. If they have no desire to work in small business management, they can work for a retailer. Yes, they may still have to worry about inventory and finding the right amount of stuff, but it's not a requirement to do the rest of the management. However, if a pharmacist really wanted to get into small business management, they could open their own private practice. In here, they would need all the skills needed to run any other sorts of businesses, of course, from a pharmaceutical standpoint. Well, pharmaceutical isn't all sunshine and rainbows. There are also some cons that come with it. Advancement opportunities in the pharmacy field are limited to none. Pharmacy isn't one of those fields where you get 15 different promotions and then you retire. Once you become a pharmacist, you're pretty much a pharmacist for life. Another negative is the typical work schedule. While this was listed as a positive above, it can also be a negative. Some places require pharmacists to work 4 to 5 days a week, week in and week out, ranging from 10 to 12-hour days. The days get long, burnout is very common, and it can be very grueling. This can lead to job dissatisfaction and cause people to rethink their career path. Hiring competition is also proving to be a challenge in the years to come. The job outlook for becoming a pharmacist has decreased, while the number of people applying to pharmacy schools and applying to jobs has increased, which doesn't bode well for future pharmacists. Finally, the last con would be education costs and time. You need a PharmD degree, which is essentially a medical doctorate. 6 to 8 years of post-secondary education is required as well. Finally, the pharmacy school debt ranges anywhere between $65,000 to $200,000, which is a sizable chunk of money. While you're getting a nice salary, that's still a lot of debt you have to pay back.
Opportunities in this career field. This job does exist, and there are numerous pharmacists employed at various locations all over the world. The demand for this job worldwide is actually shrinking. It's at a negative 3% decline, but just in Minnesota, it's up 3%, meaning it's a growing field. This job exists in many different types of settings and backgrounds. 42% of pharmacists work in a pharmacy or in a drugstore. 26% of pharmacists work in hospitals, state, local, and private. 8% work in food and beverage stores. 5% work in general merchandise stores. Some of them also work for government and the military, and some of them are either privately or independently employed.
Moving on to the informational interview, we interviewed a pharmacist by the name of Tuan Tu. He's employed at St. Joseph Hospital. We contacted him through a family friend of Ola, and we reached communication with him through text messages and conducted the interview through Zoom. The most interesting question that we felt that was asked was, how could you speak to the work and life balance and your quality of job satisfaction? He says that he really liked his work schedule. It took him a little time to get used to it, but after a while, he got into a habit of it. He spends most of his morning and daytime with his family, but then hits the hay around 4 to 5, and then wakes up for his pharmacy shift that starts at 9 p.m. He usually works, as was touched on before, the 7 on and 7 offs. He says while the days can get long during that 7-day stretch, he really enjoys that 7 days off to spend with his time and family, getting to do whatever he wants to do.
The most concerning answer we got was in response to the question, what is something you wish you knew before you started your job? He answered that one of the things he wished he knew is how much he would have to rely on others just to complete his job. He explained that being a pharmacist is a lot of reactive work instead of proactive work. He talked about how he has to constantly persist through an issue with a doctor or a nurse. He explained that he has to work through a problem at least half a dozen times a day. He joked that he not only has to do his job, but he also has to take on half the doctors' and nurses' responsibilities as well. This was the most concerning answer because it's really risky having your job rely on someone else, and it sounds like it'd be very stressful.
Moving on to graduate school research, we found that there are 142 accredited pharmacies in the United States as we speak. Well, one is trying to gain accreditation in the meantime. How many in the region? There's only one in Minnesota, which is the University of Minnesota College of Pharmacy, and few neighboring states, which we will touch on momentarily. For our 4 intriguing programs, we limited it down to the Midwest and narrowed it down to our 4 favorites from there. We selected the University of Minnesota, which was located in Minneapolis, Minnesota. This was chosen for proximity to home and quality of education. The University of Minnesota is actually a top 5 pharmacy school, and it's right in our backyard. The next school we chose to focus on was Concordia University, Wisconsin, located in Mequon, Wisconsin, which chose for involvement in the Concordia system and interview probability. This one may be a no-brainer, but since we already attend Concordia, we would at least have a little bit of experience with the school's background. The other positive was the interview probability. They say that they average 80% of applicants receive a callback for an interview. While this doesn't guarantee you're going to get accepted, it is great practice for the future of applying to other schools or even applying for a job. The next school we chose to focus on was South Dakota State University, which is located in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, was chosen for its acceptance and graduation rates. Compared to the other 3 schools on the list, it had the highest graduation and acceptance rate. Finally, the last school we chose to focus on was North Dakota State University. Located in Fargo, North Dakota, it was chosen for its degree completion in 6 years and its cost effectiveness. From the moment you step foot in undergrad to the moment you receive your diploma, it takes 6 years is what North Dakota guarantees you. And finally, it was the most cost-effective school of the others on the list.
Next, we researched the application process of the four aforementioned schools. The first is the University of Minnesota. It requires that you take courses in biology, microbiology, human or comparative anatomy, human or comparative physiology, advanced biology, calculus 1, statistics, general chemistry, organic chemistry, general physics, social and behavioral sciences, advanced English composition, and introductory communication. This college also requires that you have an interview and some work experience, and it also requires volunteer and extracurricular experience, as well as an application fee of $75. The required documents for the University of Minnesota include your official transcripts, a personal statement, official PCAT scores, 3 letters of recommendation, and the University of Minnesota supplemental application. The timeline to complete these applications for fall 2022 admission. The priority deadline is October 1st, 2021 at 11:59. Meeting the priority deadline means that you get priority scholarship consideration, and you also get admission to your preferred campus. However, if you miss the priority deadline, you can still meet the final deadline, which is in February 1st, 2022 at 11:59. The final deadline to get consideration for remaining scholarships and admission to your preferred campus if there's space. Concordia University of Wisconsin requires that you take courses in biology, general chemistry, physics, advanced science, organic chemistry, calculus, statistics, English and composition, interpersonal communication, or public speaking, as well as economics and general education electives. A minimum of a 2.75 GPA is required, and you also need a minimum grade of a C- in all the required prerequisite work. An interview is also required, but luckily it does not require a PCAT as of last year, 2020 in April. The required documents include 3 letters of recommendation and a CWSOP, and the timeline to complete these applications for fall 2021 admissions. The application opens on July 14th, 2020, and the deadline for early decision is September 8th, 2020. The application officially closes on June 1st, 2021, and you also have a required interview, which is on campus from September to June for those with an invitation. The next 2 schools are South Dakota State University and North Dakota State University. For South Dakota State University, it actually doesn't require any courses before you apply because they accept qualifying students right out of high school. And the basic undergraduate coursework will actually be taken at the college after acceptance. It does require an interview and 8 hours of shadowing and a criminal background check, as well as an ATCE score of at least a 27 and an SAT score of at least 1,280 and a GPA of at least a 3.5. The required documents include the completed application form, all the official transcripts, 2 letters of recommendation with the contact information of the people who wrote them, as well as ACT, SAT, or PCAT score documentation. In addition to all of this, it does require a personal essay and a shadowing form. The timeline to complete these applications, because they accept students fresh out of high school, there isn't much one needs to do before applying, except for studying for the PCATs to get a competitive score. For fall 2022 admissions, the deadline to apply was February 1st, 2021, and schools will start reviewing and accepting applicants on October 1st. They'll notify all applicants of either their admission or deferral by March 15th, 2021. North Dakota State University also does not require you take courses before applying. They'll accept students right out of high school, and it requires a GPA of at least a 3.0, a $125 fee upon applying, and a PCAT test. Official documentations that are required include official transcripts of academic work, a PCAT test, but it can be from up to 3 years prior, a standard application, and a supplemental application specifying that you want to apply to their pharmacy school. The timeline to complete these applications for early admission for high school students, they must be submitted during their senior year for admission, but the traditional application deadline for fall 2021 admission is November 1st, 2020.
Moving on to the similarities and differences between the grad schools, there's a good amount of similarities and also some differences. One of the major similarities is that all universities require summer courses.
It's
Starting
5
your
o'clock.
sophomore year of college, you will have to take summer courses. While they may range from 0 to 6 credits, they are required. Moving on to the next similarity, all are required to take an internship their senior year. While an internship can range from 1 large internship per semester or 4 per semester, they all require you to get some sort of hands-on experience while in your senior year. Moving on to the next similarity, they all hover around 17 to 18 credits a semester. The average undergrad full-time student takes 15 credits. So this is a sizable amount of credits to balance semester in and semester out. Finally, the last similarity is they all require electives of some sort. Electives can range from pediatric medicine to geriatric medicine to pretty much any different kind of medicine. And the different electives can obviously differ from college to college. Now moving into the differences, the University of Minnesota has 2 different campus locations, one in Duluth and one in the Twin Cities. The other universities only have the 1 location. Concordia does not require a PCAT to get admitted. The PCAT is essentially the pharmacy test to get accepted into pharmacy school, similar to that of the bar test to get accepted into law school. The other 3 schools require you to take the PCAT test. South Dakota accepts students straight out of high school. The others require you to have at least some college before you apply to their campus. Moving on to the last one is North Dakota State University. They don't have set in stone course order. So what this means is they set out what courses you need to take in which year, but they don't necessarily tell you what order you should take them. They allow you to decide when you want to take it, be it in the fall or in the spring semester. This concludes our presentation. Here's a list of the sources we used to compile the information for our slides. Thank you very much for watching.